The Indiana Jones series is one of the greatest action series in cinematic history. Indiana Jones is the story of an idealistic American archaeologist who roamed the world fighting the pure evil that wished to desecrate ancient treasures. That evil was often personified by Third Reich Nazi Germany, which was obsessed with capturing any artifact that could increase their power. This is real, by the way. The Nazis in real life did scour the world for sacred artifacts. It's fascinating. In one of the most tense scenes in the series, Jones must retrieve a book from inside Nazi Germany. Our hero would come face to face in the scene with Adolf Hitler himself. I want to pause for a moment here to note something incredible about the film's director, Steven Spielberg. Spielberg was born the year World War II ended. He was raised in an Orthodox Jewish family. According to Spielberg, it was common to hear about the Holocaust in his upbringing. The Holocaust was responsible for the death of up to 20 of Spielberg's direct relatives. The director of Indiana Jones is a man deeply affected by the horrors of Nazi Germany on a personal level. So how did Spielberg choose to present the evil of the Nazi Party on the screen to millions of people around the world? Spielberg chose book burnings. This scene is haunting. In living color, Nazis march through the streets with banners waving. Fistfuls of books are thrown onto the burning pyre as Nazi leaders look on, pleased. Jones saves his book from the flames, but not before Hitler autographs it himself. Again, a memorable and tense scene. While Indiana Jones himself is a fictional character, Nazis were very real, and Nazis did burn books, for sure. Any text that undermined the Third Reich was burned. Political, religious, artistic, it did not matter. Nazism was an orthodoxy, and the German state must not be questioned. This is how Spielberg chose to demonstrate the true evil of totalitarianism: the deletion of history, the fear of ideas, the demand for intellectual and cultural conformity. Unfortunately for the world, book burnings and state-sponsored censorship are not exclusive to the Nazi Party. In fact, every powerful evil regime from the Mongol hordes to the Soviet Union systematically suppressed ideas and speech and intellectual freedom. For communists and Marxists, book burnings are not embarrassing mistakes, they're the goal. In his writings, Karl Marx directly called for an end of history, the destruction of everything that came before communism, anything that could remind people of capitalism and their happy, private, prosperous lives before the state took over. Marx writes openly that the end of history must be violent. He says that specifically. The Chinese Communist Party listened to Marx and followed his instructions. The Marxist legacy of cultural suppression and violence to this day lives on in Communist China. China brutally oppresses free speech and runs concentration camps in their own country. You can see imagery of them on the screen right now. These concentration camps are for free thinkers and minorities. If you are Chinese and you dare criticize the Communist Party, you will end up in jail. Such was the fate of a Chinese student at the University of Minnesota who was arrested in China and sentenced to 6 months in prison for tweets that he posted while in the United States, this country. What did the student tweet that was so offensive? Images of Winnie the Pooh. Yes, Winnie the Pooh, a character, is banned in China. Why? Well, because Winnie the Pooh, the cartoon, has a striking resemblance to dictator Xi Jinping. Tyrants taking great offense at harmless cartoon characters? Where have I seen this before? I wonder. Let me think for a second. Oh yes, modern day America. Here, today, our culture. This is happening. Marxists have used the hollow shell of the Democratic Party to ascend to power and do what they have always wanted to do in this country and what they do in every country: destroy the history and culture of the nation that they have taken over. This year alone, we have seen Kermit the Frog, Mr. Potato Head, Dr. Seuss, Star Wars characters, pancake syrup, butter, and beloved sports teams' logos banned, erased from history. These are not simply marketing choices of private companies. We want to emphasize this. Joe Biden's White House endorses these modern-day book burnings. The White House, the most powerful seat in our land. Biden broke with long-standing tradition and refused to acknowledge Dr. Seuss on his birthday this very week. He refused to recommend that children read beloved Dr. Seuss books. Amazon then stopped selling certain Dr. Seuss titles, and publishers halted printing them entirely. Here are real screenshots from an eBay user getting blocked for trying to sell a Dr. Seuss book because it is, and I quote, offensive material. We verified these images are real. What's also real shocking, is that Hitler's Mein Kampf is still available for sale on eBay. This is a book literally about racism. This is a book literally calling for book burnings. You cannot make this up. I wonder what Steven Spielberg is thinking right now after filming that Indiana Jones scene nearly 30 years ago. It's safe to say that never in world history have the people advocating for book burnings, censoring speech, and criminalizing ideas been on the right side of history. So why is this happening? Well, the same reason it always happens: power. The cultural Marxists want it bad. And they're not stopping with burning cartoons and children's books. No, no, no. They have bigger plans in mind. These Marxists are pushing right now critical race theory. This is a theory that is the antithesis of American ideals. Critical race theory is indeed racist. It implicitly judges people on their skin color, which is evil and wrong and un-American. It also demands equity, not equality. This is an important difference. Equality is guaranteeing the same opportunity. Equity is guaranteeing the same outcome. This country was not founded on equity, it was founded on equality. Opportunity. What you do with your American opportunity is up to you. You will determine your own outcome. That is the American tradition. This is critical. When you hear the word equity, it is code for communism and communist principles. Perhaps this is why the Biden administration is so fond of using this word.
Racial equity will not just be an issue for one department in our administration. It has to be the business of the whole of government and all our federal policies and institutions.
And that's why he's taken a number of steps, even in the last 6 weeks since he took office, launching a whole of government initiative to advance racial equity.
Advance racial equity and make sure the economic recovery includes everyone.
The president has committed the whole of our government to advancing racial justice and equity for all Americans.
Of course, we have an equity task force led by Dr. Marcela Nunez-Smith to look at this closely.
Again, I'm going to go back to the whole question of equity.
Terrifying. Remember, equity equals communism. Mix this push for communist equity with the tearing down of our statues, renaming of high schools named after American patriots like Abraham Lincoln, that's happening, and the prominent push to cast the 4th of July, the Betsy Ross flag, and our police as systemically racist, and you begin to see the bigger picture here. This is the end of history, the end of our history. Karl Marx called for it, and they are following his word to the letter. Sadly, this has all happened before in violent communist revolutions and takeovers around the world. This is intended to bewilder you, to disconnect you from your history and culture, and ultimately force state rule upon you. We repeat, never in world history have the people burning the books been the good guys. Be on the side of the good guys. Reject equity, embrace equality. Reject communism, embrace American culture. There's no such thing as a nation with a perfect history. It doesn't exist. But there are nations founded on the correct ideals and principles. America is one of those nations. Be proud. It's why I'm happy to report that virtually all of the top 20 most popular books on Amazon, right now the largest bookseller in the world, are Dr. Seuss titles. That's awesome. That's great. And it shows something about America. It shows that we are better than the communists. We will not be told what we can and cannot buy, what we can and cannot read. This show will never stop defending American culture, and to that end, the Benny Report has created an in memoriam for the culture we have lost tragically in our war with the communists just this year. Without further ado, I give to you Benny Report in Memoriam. May all of these pieces of our culture rest in peace in the great logos, heaven in the sky. Our next guest is a veteran himself of the culture wars, and he knows the sting of cancel culture himself firsthand. ALX joins us next.